Well, as the Minister conducts site inspections at the Giyani Bulk Water Project, some residents say they've lost hope that they will indeed have water by this date that he has set, which is before the end of the year. Let's get you some analysis now. We're joined by Dr Ferrial Adam, the Executive Manager at Watercan. Dr. Adam, it's a pleasure talking to you. You know, I was discussing with my executive producer whether it is fair to say that residents in Giyani have lost hope, but for a project that started in 2010, that was meant to cost 90 million rand, but that figure has now skyrocketed to over 3 billion rand. I think that's a fair assessment to make, that they have lost hope.
Indeed it is, and actually it's about 4.1 billion right now. And, the fact that people have lost hope is completely understandable. You're talking about 55 villages almost, where they've been waiting with bated breath for just basic services of water.
We had our reporter on the ground in that area covering that story, and when the minister was there, taps were opened and water was flowing, but just a few streets down, a very different picture.
Yes, I mean, I think the complexity of the issue is that there's, firstly, it was broken up in two phases. So they would have had 24 villages at the one time and then 31 at another time that would be connected to water. But we also, I think what you're raising is an important point. People want to have consistency and consistent access to water. So obviously that is not happening. So people are quite unhappy.
Yeah, absolutely. The minister has now given this deadline. He says water will come online by the end of the year. Of course, we're looking at all of these things, all of the promises that are coming from various people in government who belong to political parties, under the lens of the fact that it is an election year as well.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of electioneering going on around this access to water. And, it mustn't be a case of we have a bit of water now and then come June after the elections, it's all gone again. I also think that what would be very telling is that for the people who've been involved, because the delays have not just been delays that was construction delays and minor issues. There was a lot of money that went missing. And I think that all of those people that not only, like the Lapel Water Board where they found issues, but also the construction companies must be held accountable and people must actually go to jail.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever you and I talk, it's always around this issue of access to water, the provision of water, this basic right that so many of the people in our country don't have access to. What does that mean to not have access to water for more than a decade, for your dignity, number one, sharing water sources with animals, and secondly, for your health, Dr. Adam?
I mean, I think that's exactly it, right? Is that in our constitution, water is a basic human right. But that has been violated over and over and over in our country, and we're seeing it all the time. And unless we start seeing people pay the price for that, it's going to continue. And for the people in Giyani, it's no wonder that they've lost hope. I mean, imagine waiting for such a long time for a basic thing like water to have taps in your house. And you raise an important issue is that the whole issue of, water and health and dignity are all linked. So now if you don't have water, people are talking about the fact that they had to walk 2 kilometers to a tap. And if you look at some of government statistics, they talk about 85% of our population having access to water. We really need to unpack that access.
Yeah.
Because for elderly people and for people who are ill, walking 2 kilometers is walking a long distance, affecting their health for getting clean, safe drinking water. The other thing, Michelle, and you talk about sharing these water resources with animals, is that our rivers and streams are not all clean because of our wastewater treatment works that are 70% of them failing and spewing sewage into our rivers and streams. So people are then dependent on dirty water.
Sure. I want to unpack that number that you've just mentioned, the 85% that's always bandied about by government when we talk about the service delivery successes of the past 30 years. When we say 85, or when government says 85% of people have access to water, as you say, that can be within a certain a certain sort of distance from their home, right? We're not talking about a tap. Never mind the fact that it's not a tap in your house. We're not even talking about a tap that's in your yard.
Exactly. They lump it all together. So if you unpack those statistics, in South Africa, only about 46% of the entire population have a running tap in their homes.
Yeah.
And actually, if you ask some of the people in the city of Johannesburg right now, they'll say to you that's even less because of the amount of water cuts we're experiencing. Then you have to walk. Then they got a standpipe in your yard, 200 meters from your house, and then beyond that. So all of that they're describing as access.
And I mean, for an 8-year-old pensioner who lives on their own, maybe they live with family members, maybe not, how am I meant to get water even 200 meters from my home?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, you see these pictures and we've almost become like it's normalized.
Desensitized,
Thank you. Using wheelbarrows and like having these buckets of water that they're pushing, almost as that's okay. It's not okay.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. For so many issues in our country, we have become so desensitized. We see these photographs of things that should not be happening, and we take it as something that's normal. Dr. Ferrial Adam, let me thank you for your time as always, giving us a real sense of the water numbers and the access to water numbers.